Where is the best place to mediate? Well, for mediation to deliver on its promise, it has to be cheap. Flying all over the place and taking off time, usually for several people, hotels and so forth, is an expensive business. So more and more online mediation is taking over from live or face-to-face mediation, and it has a lot of advantages besides the costs. The technology that's being used is highly secure. We've come into a phase of video conferencing that is well advanced and is now becoming acceptable from a confidentiality point of view, and from a practical point of view in terms of being able to lock a room, for example, so nobody can get in even if they have a password. Lock a room would be locking off the meeting, the online meeting from anybody else. So the principles are the same as face-to-face mediation. This is not a Skype. This is much more advanced than Skype, and it is much more in keeping with the requirements of mediation. You'd be sitting anywhere in the world on a computer or an iPad or a handheld or a smartphone. All of them work very well. And you'd be looking at a screen of, let's say, two other people, a mediator and your counterpart in a simple situation, and yourself. So you'd be looking at 3 frames, and the mediator would be doing, and everyone else would be doing, exactly the same as they would in a face-to-face mediation. As far as the advantages of that is that you don't have to be in the same room as your counterpart. You may not be on very good terms. The technology does not require that you have an email address or any type of contact details of your counterpart. So there's lower risk of any abuse. So if a private session is needed, you'd be asked to leave the session and you'd see a black screen, and you would, because you're in your own space, you have usually something to do. You could get a cup of coffee, you go and check your email or so forth, and that's efficient for time. Although it's very important to think about what's going on and see if you can come up with any ideas or considerations while you're waiting. The other thing is that there are 2 types of online mediation. What we've just talked about is called synchronous mediation, where everybody's around at the same time in the room or on hold. The other type is asynchronous mediation, which is where you're online but not at the same time. And online mediation is usually a mix of the 2, depending on how things progress. Online mediation could mean, I need to have a private session with you, let's do it, and the other person does not have to be around or anything, and then the following week I need to have a private session with the other person, same thing. It could extend into emails, it could extend into phone, and usually does extend into phone calls and so forth. So it's a very efficient way of doing things. The other thing about asynchronous mediation is that it gives the mediator time to consider things, maybe even to consult with peers, anonymously of course, and to digest a lot of what has been going on rather than having to be on the spot and making decisions, sometimes too quickly. The parties are the same thing, have a chance to absorb and to reflect on the whole thing while they're waiting for the next session. the parties also having some time to absorb and consider their what's known as their BATNA, BATNA, or the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. In other words, if you don't make an agreement during mediation, then what is plan B? And how might plan B look? Online mediation is very valuable and has given us a tremendous advantage in doing things even more efficiently and at lower cost.